Hi, welcome to this episode of Academic Writing. I am Lee Hall, Associate Professor of Literacy Studies at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Today we're going to be looking at a reviewer at a... Bleh. Hi, welcome to this episode of Academic Writing. I am Lee Hall, Associate Professor of Literacy Studies at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Today we're going to be looking at a question that a viewer has submitted, which is, what does revise and resubmit really mean? So when you submit a manuscript to a journal, it goes out, it gets peer reviewed, it comes back with a decision. Sometimes that decision is revise and resubmit. And how should you be interpreting that, making sense of that, and what should you do? First off, if you have questions that you would like to see me discuss here, please feel free to email them to me at leahall39@gmail.com, and feel free to take a look at my blog where I talk about issues of teaching in higher ed at leahall.wordpress.com. All right, so quick review. When you send a manuscript to a journal, there are 4, sometimes 5 different possible responses to your manuscript, okay? So first one is reject. Reject means you're done here, game over, find someplace else, okay? We're not taking your manuscript. That's always, that's never a fun decision, but it happens. The next level is reject and resubmit. This is my least favorite response, okay? Because reject, flat out reject, tells me, hey, game over, go find someplace new. And I can get that, I can do that. What happens with reject and resubmit is that usually they think there's something interesting about your manuscript, but your manuscript needs such a drastic amount of revisions. And when you make these revisions, it's going to result in an entirely new piece or something that just looks so substantially different than what you initially submitted, okay? And if you decide to resubmit it, it's not going to go to the same reviewers. It's going to go to completely different reviewers, which is why it's called reject and resubmit, because when you resubmit it, it's going to be treated as a new submission and get sent out to 3 or 4 brand new reviewers. And those brand new reviewers are not going to know anything about your piece. They're not going to know it was a reject and resubmit. They're not going to know about the revisions that you made. They're just going to treat it like a new piece. So it's my least favorite one. And sometimes I'll actually just, if I get a reject and resubmit, I'll just move on to another journal. But revise and resubmit, right? That's the next option up. And revise and resubmit means, hey, you're going to make the revisions, you're going to send them back to the journal, and then the editors are going to send them out to the same reviewers, ideally. Sometimes a reviewer isn't available, they're on vacation, they've had some kind of family emergency, so they have to replace a reviewer, but normally it goes to the same reviewers. And the reviewers are going to know what revisions you've made, okay? You're going to tell them, these are the revisions that I've made. They're going to get that information. Even if one of your original reviewers can't review the manuscript, they're still going to be made aware, this is a revise and resubmit. This is what the author was told to do. Please evaluate it based on all of these factors. Okay. Then you get accept with revisions. So normally what happens is you get a revise and resubmit. You resubmit it, and then either it's going to be rejected, game over, or it's going to get bumped up to the next level, which is accept with revisions. And these revisions are going to be pretty minor. They might take you anywhere from 10 minutes to an hour at most to complete. And then those don't go back out for review. At that point, you're working directly with one of the journal editors. And then there's accept, no revisions. And so normally what happens is most people will get a revise and resubmit, and then they'll move up to accept with revisions. They'll make those minor revisions, and then the piece will be accepted, and it'll move into being published. All right, so with that being said, let's take a look at why revise and resubmit is actually a very good thing. It's actually what you're striving to get. I was very surprised a long time ago to learn in talking to journal editors that when most people get a revise and resubmit, they actually don't resubmit it. I don't know what people are doing with their manuscripts when they get this decision, but when I've been talking to people informally, I've learned that people tend to see it as a very negative thing. If you're aiming to get accept with revisions right off the bat, you're going to be very disappointed because that very rarely happens to anybody, particularly if you're submitting to a journal that has a 90% or greater rejection rate, it's just likely not going to happen. So what you're aiming for when you submit something is to just not get rejected, right? Even reject and resubmit is typically better than reject, okay? Because reject means game over. Your goal is to stay in the game. So revise and resubmit, I believe it is always a good thing because your manuscript was not rejected. You are still in the game. The people that reviewed your work, they saw value in it, okay? Now, I know as a reviewer that sometimes I read a piece and I've got questions. I can't say, hey, let's accept this yet until my questions are answered. But I believe that if I ask you, the author, these questions, that you're smart and capable and that you can provide that information that's going to shift that piece forward, okay? And get it to be accepted. That's how I see it, okay? So revise and resubmit, people see value in your work, and reviewers believe that your piece has the potential to be published and it has the potential to offer a contribution. And I hate to tell you this, but I've never gotten accept with revisions or an outright accept. I've gotten reject, and resubmit, and revise and resubmit. I get revise and resubmit all the time. And if you go to my blog and look at my CV, you'll see that I publish in a lot of top tier journals, and those are all coming back as revise and resubmit. And I always revise and resubmit. I never walk away from a revise and resubmit. And that has always panned out for me. I think maybe there was one time where it didn't get moved to an accept, okay? That was very, very early on in my career, and I probably could have used some help in terms of thinking about how to make the revisions better. So anyways, revise and resubmit is very good. You should absolutely revise and resubmit. So don't view it as a negative, view it as a positive, stay in the game, keep with it.